Hi, Sachin.
Hey, Dinkar.
So, Sachin, I was as I was uploading old podcasts to be served on Apple Podcast and elsewhere, I was kind of going through the topics we have covered, and three threads are emerging to which we kind of lean a lot. We talk about product management. We talk about metrics, and we've started talking about generative AI. And so looks like, one of the things of let's see where it goes. It kind of at least has, it's going towards, these three conversations, and we'll see where it goes in future also. And you may or may not know that NASSCOM India has started this product mentorship, and they nicely added me also as a mentor. And I was talking to a few mentees, and in general also in the organization where we work, these kind of topic comes up often, and I wanted to talk a bit about it. It's product management in enterprises, or enterprise product management. I thought let's talk a little bit about this topic.
Sure.
So the first question that I get asked when I talk about it to people who have not worked a lot with enterprises is this now another jargon? Is this another thing that consultants are coming with, and recruiters are coming with, and training organizations are coming? Is there anything different? While there is a lot of overlap, I think there are a few very key characteristics that kind of set apart a product manager in enterprise versus a product manager in a small organization, SME or something like that.
Yeah, Dinkar, the one question which I was also wondering is, when I was in startup world, product management was not called as product management at that time. This is a term which I have not heard 10 years ago, spoken so freely within circles. So at that time, people used to call product manager, but then product manager used to have certain responsibilities.
Yeah.
And then before that, people used to think about these are responsibilities of a mixed persona, right? SME slash project manager slash all these type of things. So if you could take an arc, and I know for a fact that enterprises woke up to this fact of product manager very late compared to startup scene. And when they adopted product manager, they also changed the definition according to their ecosystem, and they fit into that. So when you are touching upon the three characteristics which you started talking, if you could also give a little bit of like the how this role evolved throughout the ecosystem, and where do you think in enterprises it exists today?
See, in large organizations, a product manager always existed. And I think probably they were also called product managers, and some of them used to grow into being a brand manager. So if you take example of, let's say, in our FMCG world, Dabur Red, right? Now, there was a manager who was responsible for bringing together the product creation team, which was actually looking at this is what the tube will look like, this is what the colors will look like, the branding team, this is how Dabur would look like, this is where the logo, there were designers around it. More importantly, there was a production team and there was a sales team. And in FMCG, right, there's a massive supply chain, how it is going, how it is showing up on the racks of various shops. And at the end of the day, this product manager was responsible for making it responsible. They were responsible for P&L, right? So this was like, quote unquote, the old world product manager, although also a GM of a product or a brand manager, right? They were essentially responsible for getting the revenue out of this, right? Managing the P&L.
Right.
And more importantly, use the existing challenge of the organization, right? So it's not that Dabur Red has its own, supply, salespeople, right? Is the Dabur salespeople who are going and then positioning, the Dabur Red or Chyawanprash or something like that, right? So, and the design people are, organization. So they were always taking advantage of what is happening in the organization to create a space for their own brand and run the P&L. When startups started happening as compared to, let's say Lotus 123, Microsoft Office, right? When these were large enterprise products, right? They kind of followed this process a lot. So there used to be GMs responsible, right? So the GM was kind of the most go-to what I have seen when I talk to people who have been around, the designation, right? But when software started becoming moving very fast, now this person is no longer just responsible for P&L. Suddenly a new thing started emerging, discovering a product opportunity, right? Because before
Right.
that, all the products kind of were incremental to something where around lifestyle, where they were serving existing societies, existing workflows, existing realities, right? Suddenly this new thing started coming, which is creating market also, right? And this is where pivots started to happen. This is where failure started to happen. This is where changing started to happen. This is where this GM persona needed to be really close to the ground, right? And this is where, people who had the idea, the founders and all that, who were close to the ground started becoming successful. So in this new spectrum, you started moving towards product manager being the founder, right? Now, as soon as the founder became, the organization became big and other they not everyone could be a founder, and they, kind of started towards finding that smart people who have ear to the ground, right? And that's why in early days, people used to say that product manager is the CEO of the product, right? What they're trying to say is that you're responsible for P&L, you're responsible for figuring out the market. A lot of people used to misunderstand that I will have the authority of a CEO. That's what it means. No, it doesn't mean that. You have all the responsibilities and accountability of the CEO and probably have very little authority of a CEO, right? So that's the
Right.
miserable side of being a product manager, and it's kind of started taking shape formally. And what started happening is that as startups are moving very fast, right? There still used to be a kind of a GM. Like if you take a big, large bank, right? And we have worked with few of them, right? If you look at it, there used to be some, either this person with a technical background, a business background, project management background. This was the person who was bringing it all together, right? But then they realized that these startups and these organizations are moving very fast. Agile became very popular within the organization, and Agile had a role of a PO. And then certification started to happen, CSPO certificate, all these certifications, right? So it was kind of, suddenly there was this availability and this desire of a lot of people in these organizations to have that product role, where they said that we'll help you shape it, right? We will help you create revenue out of it and all, right? So kind of responsibilities kind of got divided in that way. And that's how it emerged. And lying there in this evolution has the three strengths, if you are thinking like that, or the three biggest challenges of a product manager in an enterprise, right? The first one being that enterprise has a very complex stakeholder map for a product manager. What that means is, now in enterprise, if you see the degree of separation between, ideal degree of separation between a product manager and the customer or a user, it should be 1 degree away, right? But in enterprise, there are multiple degrees, right? Because of how the sales happen, because of regulations, because of departments. IT department is separate and business is separate, right? So the first problem is that there are these layers of organizational hierarchies between you and the end customer. So it's never 1 degree of separation. It could be 6 degrees of separation, you know.
Correct.
And what that also means is that between you and the end customer, there are proxies to this customer. There are people in the middle who say that I know the customer, I represent the customer, this is what the customer needs, right? And of course, you know, everyone has their own perspective. It's, you know, they are looking at the customer based upon the department they are part of. If they're regulators, they're just focused on the privacy aspect of the customer. If they are on the sales side, they are focused upon what will a customer pay and for what. If they are on the business development side, they'll say, what are the opportunities I should go after it, right? Each one of them have their departmental, you know, view on what a customer is. And now this product manager is seeing these 7-8 view, you know, 7-8 kind of, you know, eyepieces in front of, you know, him or her. And each one of them is giving them a piece of the customer's picture, and they now have to bring together, right? So stakeholders become very important. The first set of stakeholders, these are the proxies to the customer. Then come the organization stakeholders, right?
Correct.
You got the boss and boss's boss and all that. They're also very important. Then you got these adjacent things. There are stakeholders who belong to branding, who belong to compliance, who belong to regulations, who have a legal point of view, will say that I want to understand your product because at some point I will, if someone sues us, I'll have to go and defend this product, right? So I want to understand what you're building. I have an opinion because if you do this, that is not defendable. Can you do this, right? And these kind of inputs suddenly start changing the nature of the product, right? So suddenly you got this new set of stakeholders coming in, right? And then given that in organization, right, there is an ecosystem of things that you have to go and work with. Remember my example that if I'm product manager for a toothpaste, I have to work with the design team, which is a totally different team, which has their own priorities, who have given allocated some time to me. There's a sales channel team, a sales incentive team, so many things happening. I have to work with these, right? Now I have got these stakeholders within these ecosystem, right, who are now my stakeholders. And all these people who are responsible for these pieces, they have their own priorities, and they're trying to shuffle between my request and request of 5 other product managers, and they're doing their own thing. They're doing their own tech debt analysis. They're doing their own, what are the things we want to bring in? They're doing their own value articulation. So they kind of have their own thing, and I have to make sure that I'm coordinating. So if you look at it, right, the first complexity is this stakeholders, right? Stakeholders who are proxy to the customers, who give you pieces of information about a customer, stakeholders who are in this organizational hierarchy, stakeholders who are lateral to you, who bring in branding and all these concepts. And then you are building something, it depends upon other you know, systems in the ecosystem, which someone is giving you data, someone is owning the UI, which a customer sees, and then you have to manage, right? Suddenly the stakeholder management becomes a complex thing. And then these are all people, they have their own quirks, they have their own styles, and you have to manage them. So this is the first aspect. I know you have faced many of these scenarios. Do you want to recall some fun story?
Yeah, I mean, the stakeholder management is the toughest part, Dinkar, I would say. Many times the challenge is to even understand these are the stakeholders. There are some direct stakeholders and there are some indirect stakeholders, as you pretty much gave very good landscape. The indirect stakeholders are, it's often a rookie mistake to not give them enough weightage. Although they, like compliance is a great example which you took, right? Although in your mind, my primary stakeholder is salespeople. They are my interface, and marketing, which is taking the input from the market and telling me this is what your product should look like, because the competition has this. Salespeople are saying, I go and talk to customers on a daily basis. They are struggling with this. You need to have this in addition to whatever you heard from marketing. I don't care. Now, you believe this is my primary stakeholder. And my boss is who said, you have only X budget and let me just do that. And who are going to build this for me? These are my internal team. compliance, like it's like we'll first figure out what to build, right? These people can actually stop everything in track for months and with legit reason, and
Yeah.
nobody will even come and question you, them, including CEOs. So that's where the trick starts, is you should be able to understand. And in enterprise, it is not only you are dealing with the direct responsibilities of people, there are indirect agendas as well.
Yeah.
And navigating all that thing. And I am delving into that, but my curious question to next to you was how enterprise fights back into these enterprise promo roles. But go through your characteristics first. But I can totally imagine a smaller company which is very product oriented, very hungry, behaves very differently compared to an enterprise with product managers.
They do, and uh, we'll see how these organizations behave different. The second one that I want to call out is, I made a mention of it, is that in an enterprise you may not have the choice to choose your ecosystem. You may not have a
Correct.
choice to say, I want to use product B versus C. What you will have to do is you'll have to work with what is there, and especially if a product has been developed internally, you will be asked to live with it, work with it. It will come with its own restrictions, right? You're gonna just go and say that, hey, organization, you invested a double-digit $1 million in building this. Yes, it is useful for some use cases. Mine is not that. I'll go out in the market and I'll get this $2 or $5 million product, and it's perfect for me. I'll give you the results. You're not going to get it, right? Because they have to keep on getting the ROI on the existing investment, right? So that becomes the next thing, is that the ecosystem of products that already exist in the organization is something that you have to work with, live with, and it curtails your capability of choosing the best, right? Now, there is a kind of a tussle between what is right for me versus organization already put money in this, and we have to get the maximum benefit out of it. So even if this is 75%, go start using it, coordinate with that product manager, get your requests and get your features in. Now, this is solving 75% problem of everyone. So everyone is coming and chasing them for their last 25%, and it makes a lot of difference, right? You may not be able to give that specific edge to the customer, that experience to the customer. It may have, so you'll have to live with non-perfect solutions, because that's the ecosystem you have to live with. And this is a second big challenge for a product manager, that the pieces of Lego that are available to them are not perfectly fitting. They might have a loose joint here and there, and these kind of things often break, right? So, and this is the second problem that product managers in enterprise face, and makes their life complicated. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I cannot imagine the pain of people when they're called product manager, they are given a task, but essentially they are given a task of nursing an old furniture within a company. You can't change because the customers are very rigid, or they have built so much depending on that product that they don't like. Great examples are Saver, right? Those platforms for booking tickets, airline tickets. I don't want to ever get a job of like Saber's product manager. I mean, like the scale and everything that's all awesome.
Yeah.
But the fact is, the interface, they can't evolve because so many systems depend on it. And all they keep doing is creating a layer of abstraction on top of it so that they can change something or the other thing behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
This also has one more complexity, is that these products that have a very long life, if you go and start talking to the teams that are currently owning them and start scratching, you'll realize that a lot of knowledge is lost with people moving out. Yes, there are documents, but not every document is equally well written or informative. And many times these exist because no one really knows, right? And reverse engineering, it becomes very difficult. And this is one thing that we should discuss in our generative AI thread, that in scenarios like this, where there's a massive tech debt, or you have no idea how this was built, all you know is that to this response, it will give, to this query, it will give this response, how generative AI can help. But the fact is that today, um, even if someone wants to improve them, there's so much of institutional knowledge which is now hard coded in the code and no longer with the teams which are owning it, makes it very difficult for someone to even bring that 25% change on request of a product manager.
I would like to make a mental note for this so that we can talk about it. Dinkar, what you just touched upon, generative AI has a great set of solutions for that. And probably we should do a little bit unpacking of those in terms
Sure.
of how these type of scenarios where there are a lot of legacy systems and everything, what is there from generative AI and what product managers can utilize out of that to simplify their life. I mean, everybody's talking and their grandmother is talking today about how Copilot is good for developers, but uh, there are non-developer roles, non-engineering roles, which has great potential to come towards engineering. These boundaries these walls are collapsing now, Dinkar.
Yeah.
And I think this is high time. And because I know you for a long time, and you have a very technical background, it is just that you moved into this one. Now, this is the greatest comeback possible for you. Rather than
Yes.
you thinking about I want to like code or not, doesn't matter. But the familiarity of the code, the first principles which you have learned, are now far more useful because now you can delve into a couple of more quarters in and then get highly productive.
Sachin, I'll at some right time I'll discuss it, but I think it'll take me a couple of months, I'll say, given the time availability. But I'm actually working on a project on the side where I'm building something. I'm coding, but I'm not really coding. I am organizing the code. Yeah, well, I'll love to demo it at one point. How I was able to, I got a new life as a developer in a post technical role that I was in. Now a very cool drive. The third one that I wanted to discuss, Sachin, was that now what happens in large organizations is that there are people, and where there are people, there is organization. They get organized, and most commonly people get organized around teams that has a boss. So, hey, I belong to that person's team. I'm part of that team, right? I roll up to that role, right? So people are kind of getting organized by organizational hierarchies. What that means is that at some point there is an architecture team, there is a development team, there is a QA team, and we have discussed these quite often. And then the software development process and the product itself sometimes starts reflecting the Conway law, right? It starts reflecting. Now, what that means is that every time a team gets formed, the capability of the team kind of gets even more narrowed down. You are enterprise architect, you are UI architect, you are this kind of, it will keep on narrowing down as the organization grows. What that means is that for a product manager, right, as I was saying, right, there are internal stakeholders. A new set of stakeholders that get added in is my product development team is no longer a product development team, but is a coalition of, I don't know, 11 teams which are coming together and building the product. There is a set of developers. There's another team who has provided the project manager. There's another team who has the architect. There's another QA team. There is another environment support team. There is a QA environment support team, and all these kind of things, right? So yes, that's the third thing, is that Conway's law takes over.
Absolutely. And I don't know how many people have heard about Conway's law, but it's a real thing. It's not Murphy's law. And first time I heard it, it felt like Murphy's law. But then when I read about it, it's a pretty well described phenomenon. So, and a lot of people swear by it. So it's very important to know about it. Dinkar, one closing thought, as you described these three principles, is uh, product manager's life is very complicated, right? It is a responsibility like seasons in India, right? You start with expect summer, but it is not summer. Sometimes it is like rain, and then in winter sometimes it is actually kind of summer feeling. So when you are thinking about all of these roles, how does it actually one balance their North Star? What is their absolute loyalty to?
It's very hard, right? And it depends, right? In the sense, I tell this to some of the product managers that I work with, I mentor and all that, is that be a little subversive, right? Your boss has an expectation, and do that, right? Everyone has a do that, but on your side, have your own very clear purpose, right? Which is what you think the product should lead towards. In the end, you are the product manager. Everyone is contributing, right? And you're the one who have to make it. So the North Star could be something, the end customer success. It could be that in this organization, no one has accomplished this, and I'm going to accomplish this as a way of showing it to others that this can be done. That's a very important North Star in certain organizations where legacy has taken over and is stifling innovations, right? So different scenarios will have a different North Star, and I will leave it up to the product manager themselves to decide what is their North Star. But one thing they should be very clear of, they need to have their own North Star, which may be a combo
Understood.
of 2-3 official North Stars. It may be a little subversive, in the sense it's something that they only hold in their heart, but it's ultimately their responsibility to have. So I'll give you an example. So I was talking to one product manager who is part of a product org, and that org has 2-3 products. Now, the head of engineering has his own view of what things should happen and is driving things. Is kind of a co-founder kind of scenario. Now, this person joined in and said, yeah, I just do what I'm told. And I told him, okay, it's okay, to listen and agree. But in the end, do what you think is right. Put your skin in the game. And even if it's somewhere you're a little bit contradicting your director of engineering, that's okay. That person may, at some point, maybe the ego may get hurt or they may get shocked. But at the end, you have been hired as a product manager and you are the person responsible for bringing things together. And if you show a vision and you kind of stick to that vision, stick out your neck, right? That will really put you in a very good light as a professional. Rather than then you're just not really a product manager. You're just a coordinator of 15 people giving input, and you're just doing things, right? So you need to have that your own edge. And he's giving it a try. We'll see if he gets lauded when everything is okay, or he loses his job when things go south.
Yeah.
He's aware of the risk.
Yeah, Dinkar, I think we are close to the time, but one thing which I would say is recently I was watching a movie called Air. It's on Amazon Prime. It's a fantastic watch. It's about the shoes which Nike launched, and they have a product manager whose job is to design products, shoes. So he asked this fellow is like, what kind of shoe you want? Basketball shoe. Basketball shoe means it needs to be 52% white or 80% white. There is that ratio.
Yeah.
They said it needs to be
in NBA. In NBA,
NBA.
there's some NBA.
Yeah. They said that, okay, you need to have more red on this. It said like there are strict rules. They will charge you like they will penalize you $5,000 per shoe. He says, I can make it red. I would like to make it red so that it looks very aesthetically pleasing. But what to do with that? Fine. Then the marketing person who is sitting in the room says, will pay the fine every game Michael Jordan plays.
Yes.
And
yes.
that will be our marketing budget.
See, and they catch the CEO by surprise. CEO says,
yes.
and that's what makes great products, right? People
yes.
and that I forget the name of
Phil.
the character, Phil.
Yeah, Phil was the CEO. Yes, Phil is the CEO.
But the product manager, right? Played by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot.
So anyway, it sticks out his neck, right? He goes and makes deals with people, and he pushes things, right? And that's how you build something,
yeah, when you were talking about like taking the ownership, going against, and this was coming to my mind is you need to have conviction on certain things, and then you should go with that.
I think I should add this movies to you have books to read for product managers. I think probably I should add it to movies to watch for product managers on how to own.
It's not product thinking, but I like Moneyball as well because of that. Is the basketball coach, basically the team manager decides that
baseball
general manager decides
our American friends will like
yes,
Sachin isko PSP nahi malum,
yes, so the baseball general manager is thinking about adopting a new method, and his assistant is not so happy with it. So he says, what are you afraid of? This is what we committed to, right? So we are going to see the end of it, like for better or for worse. So
and this is something that small enterprise, small medium enterprise, startups, scale-ups do better than corporates. In corporates,
they're always playing with survival, Dinkar. They are not playing for good or bad. For them, and that's where I disagree. Lot of people see enterprises as old, bogged down, whatnot. But you know what? You are also underestimating finding a North Star in enterprise is 10 times more complicated than finding into a startup. In startup, you are a small, motivated group of individuals who want to achieve certain thing. You don't need to spend more than 10 minutes to know what is the North Star.
Yeah.
It is survival. It is growth. It is something like that, right? Here, you are dealing with 25 agendas. People managing budgets, people managing things. It's like, I mean, like people who do not appreciate the complexity of an enterprise, they haven't arrived yet.
They haven't, yes. And I think product managers in enterprises are the toughest people around.
Yeah.
That's often.
Yeah. On that note, thank you so much, Dinkar. It was a very enlightening conversation.
Take care, Sachin. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.